Ardent Catholic Academy. From Hamilton, New Jersey. Connecting faith and life. And you're watching Real Faith TV!
Need is something you require and is really important to you. Want is something you wish for or you wish to do. And desire is something you intend to aim or you're longing for it.
Desire can be something that you really yearn for, but can be used in a good way and a bad way, or a bad way. And greed can be a selfish desire.
I think that any desire can be self-destructive because if you pursue a desire in the wrong way, it can end up hurting you or others around you. Well, today people establish desire with bad things like sex and drugs, but desire can be connected to other good things like other people's well-being or your education.
Recognizing our desires helps fulfill God's plan for us because, for example, if you want to be a nurse like I do when I get older, I want to be a midwife and delivering, bringing new lives into the world and helping others. And to fulfill that desire, I'm going to pick a good college and major in nursing.
I desire to be financially stable and also have an excellent career and maybe someday to even own a house and also buy one for my mom too. I'd fulfill my desire in a positive way by being successful in school.
Some of my desires would be to go to college, be a police officer, and to help people whenever I can.
My desire in life is to finish high school, to finish with good grades and be able to get into the college that I want with a really good funding. My goal is to be a dentist or a neurosurgeon. One way that I'm trying to decide my career is by my job, which is working at a dentist. I work in the front desk and I work with all the dentists.
I think my greatest desire would actually to be happy for myself and for others and to help as well, because all my life I haven't had people help me personally, because since I was younger I was kind of left alone to my own devices with my parents working and all that stuff. Because of that I wasn't really a happy child, nor did I have a happy childhood. So really my greatest desire is just to find the happiness that I couldn't find when I was a child.
My desire in life is to be successful and to make the world a better place.
I think mainly I desire happiness, and trusting and believing in God can definitely bring you all that you want and need. Faith reminds us that we can't place desires over God because ultimately God has the master plan for what He wants us to be or do.
For most Catholics, desire is not usually something that we attribute to our faith.
In fact, most people probably associate Christianity with rules and teachings that speak out against pursuing desire.
This couldn't be farther from the truth when we consider a Catholic definition of the word.
Our task in life is to conform our hearts to God.
In doing so, we wind up desiring the very things He created to fulfill in and through us.
It sounds so simple, yet we all know our desires can get us into trouble sometimes.
Our desires can be distorted, twisted away from God's truth, goodness, and beauty.
How do we navigate between good and bad desires?
Desire. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Juliana.
And this is Real Faith TV. We'd like to thank the students from Trenton Catholic Academy in Hamilton, New Jersey for helping us open our show today.
And for sharing their views on what desire means to them and what they desire from life.
We'll hear from them again as part of our wildcard segment. But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Vince Schuerman.
Vince is a singer-songwriter and most recently lead singer for the band Army of Me.
Although not officially labeled a Christian artist, Vince is an artist whose songs inspire and uplift the human spirit.
He'll talk about how he defines desire and where he finds it in his life.
The word desire to me, it describes like a fire inside of you, a passion, a longing, something that you, well, desire, feel. I desire to be affirmed. I desire to be loved. I desire to be valued, to bring something of value to the world. I desire to accomplish goals and dreams, but I think the goals and dreams probably come back to, you know, wanting to offer something to the world and to people that I know and people that I love, and to also receive love and validation in return. Listening to your desires, following your heart, following your dreams. Those are all things that I think can lead you towards God's plan for your life, and things that you'll be passionate about that'll make you happy, that will help other people. I grew up in a family that was very musical, so my mom and dad both play and used to sing around the house, sing harmonies together. Just always thought it was really, really cool thing. And then I saw like rock bands on MTV, and I was like, there's nothing cooler than rock and roll music and rock stars and bands. And I always dreamed of being a musician or playing electric guitar, being on MTV, being on stage with the bright lights and the crowd. And I remember being young and just being filled with passion and desire, and honestly just following that. You know, nothing was gonna stop me. Nothing was gonna hold me back. There has been times when following a desire in a certain way has led me to bad consequences, but I've also learned lessons through following desires. And then coming, I think, later in life to a realization that I need God in my life, and that the only thing that really can satisfy my desires are God and a relationship with God has I don't know if it's changed the desires, but it's changed what I do with the desires.
I think it's really cool how he was talking about his desire to be loved, because I feel as humans, we all have that common desire to be loved.
I think it was also really awesome that his parents helped him achieve his goal of becoming a musician, and from a young age he wanted to be that, and he actually ended up achieving his goal.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, let's see what our studio guests have to say about the topic.
Okay, they are Joe,
Amanda,
Lexi,
Ryan,
Desiree,
Jess,
and Faith.
What is your definition of the word desire, and how do you think it's misunderstood or misconceived today?
Well, my definition of desire would be something that you persist in or perceive that you want to get to later in life and achieve. And I think people misunderstand it because they take it as a negative connotation. The positive side to it is that you're following the desire that God put inside of you when He put you on this earth.
Yeah, for me, desire determines how you're going to achieve your goals.
Yeah, it kind of like fuels like your passion for, you know, whatever like you want to be successful at, like singing, dancing.
I think one way that desire is misunderstood is when like the desire becomes like almost like a god to you, and that's like what you put first.
Let's meet our first wildcard guest, Karen, a student at Trenton Catholic Academy, and find out the types of desires she is seeking.
My desire in life is to be surrounded by positive energy, because I grew up with friends turning their back against me, and when I found a new group of friends, turns out that they went down the wrong path as well with drugs and addictions. And ever since that, I decided that I don't want to end up like that. So when my friends started going down the wrong path, I knew right away that wasn't for me. So my desire was to find new friends that could help me through everything, and whenever I got tempted to do anything, I knew that I could turn to God and He would show me the way that I needed to go. And another way that helped me was by listening to music. Music helped me go through everything as well.
I agree with her. One of my desires in life is also to be surrounded by positive energy, and I think it was really awesome how she had like the strength to move away from one of her friend groups that wasn't setting a good example on her life.
Yeah, it was really cool how she was able to not just go with the crowd, but instead know what was for her and do what was best for her. Scripture tells us, "Find your delight in the Lord, and He will give you your heart's desire."
In this case, desire refers to the deeper longings or hopes from a person who is living according to God's ways.
Next, our spotlight guest, Vince Schuerman, talks to us about how God-given desires are a gift.
And how our faith aims not to repress our inner longings, but to express them genuinely.
I think that desire is a good thing. I think that God gave us desires, that we were made with desires, we were made with passion. There are things that we are attracted to that are good things, beautiful things that we love. And I think I always had this concept of growing up with religion that it was a bunch of rules. It kind of almost felt like I was being told to repress my desires. And I understood or conceived of religion as, well, you can't do that, and make sure you don't do that, and make sure you don't think that. And I didn't really connect with that because I felt these things that I felt would satisfy me deep inside of me. There's this feeling of, like a lot of times, religion didn't speak to my desires. And so throughout my life, I would say like I have always followed my desires. And early on, like I did get myself into some situations that weren't healthy, weren't good for me. I've made a lot of mistakes. I came to a certain point where I hit like a really low spot in my life. I was pretty devastated by some of the consequences of me basically like reaching out for desires, but like sort of in a selfish way. But when I kind of hit a bottom and I came to realize that, wow, I actually really need God in my life. I need a savior. I'm not capable of loving.
I think it's really cool how when he hit rock bottom, he realized that he needed to bounce back from it and have God help him pull him through this.
So how do you think we can turn our desires into productive and healthy drives in our lives?
I think we can like recognize what we're good at. So I know personally, like I think I'm like a pretty good singer. So like I use my desire to always to be singing to glorify the Lord.
Yeah, well, I'm a cheerleader. And I think it's more than just cheering people on the sidelines. It's more like cheering people's lives up when they're having a bad day or just giving a smile when they're sad.
Yeah, and for me, I love helping people. So for my youth group, I'm the community service head. And right now, I'm like trying to find different projects where I can help others out.
That's awesome.
A desire of mine is to be on Broadway because I love to perform. And since I recognize that, I work hard to achieve that goal. And I try not to let anything get in the way of like what I want to be when I'm older.
And like in personal experience, in playing sports and everything, you know, desire is a good thing because, you know, you desire to win the game, but it turns bad when you will do anything to win that game. You will do anything to, you know, satisfy that desire.
Yeah, like on the other hand though, like being on so many teams, if you have that desire to win, like the rest of the team might pick that up with you. So if you can all brings you together.
That's really cool. Well, living in touch with these God-given desires requires spending time with God.
Through prayer and the sacraments, we are able to grow closer to Jesus.
He knows us better than we know ourselves, and through this relationship of prayer, he can reveal to us the desires we may not be aware of and help fulfill those desires.
For example, someone like Desiree with the gift of music, who grows in their relationship with the Lord, may realize over time that they desire to serve the church with their gift of music.
Someone who loves children may realize they desire and have the vocation to marriage and family.
Someone who is really good at math may realize they have a desire to teach math.
However, God also wants to fulfill desires we all have, like to be known and loved, to have friends and family around us, and to do well in school.
While pursuing his aspirations of being a musician, Vince took for granted the long-term relationship he had with his girlfriend at the time.
And suffered the pain of a breakup because of his failure to acknowledge his own selfishness.
By redirecting his desire into learning to love, he was able to encounter God in a new and challenging way.
I met a girl when I was in college, fell in love with her, and we dated for about 6 years. I didn't realize it really necessarily at the time, but I was really focused on myself, and I was really focused on accomplishing my dreams and goals. I was doing music, and I really put like my aspirations as the most important thing, and I took her for granted. I took what she meant to me and what she did for me and how devoted and loving she was to me. And at a certain point, she got tired of my taking her for granted and decided that she wanted to move on. Losing her was such a devastating thing for me. I had this moment where I could see who I was, and I saw how selfish I had been. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been totally narcissistic and I don't know how to love. And so at that point, it was when I was like, well, if God is love, that's what I've heard, then maybe God can teach me how to love. And so that was a moment of coming to God and saying, I need you, and I need to have a relationship with you. I need you to teach me how to love. And the focus of my life became like learning how to love. So when I changed my focus to learning how to love, I saw religion from a totally different perspective. I saw that the rules were not necessarily like rules, but more of a blueprint of like, if you're loving someone, this is what it's gonna look like. Christianity is really about radical love. Jesus Christ taught about radical love and said, no greater love has a man than to lay down his life for his friends. And then he went and did it. Like, those things aren't so much like rules anymore as like, oh, like that's what it looks like. And I need guidance in my life, because left to my own devices, I can very easily confuse myself. But I don't think of it as something repressive. There's a quote from St. Augustine that I really like. Love God and then do whatever you want. If your focus is loving God first, and also loving your neighbor, loving your family, loving your friends first, then you're good. Like, at that point, if that's your first focus, then follow your heart, follow your desires, because those things are put in you for a good purpose and for a good reason.
So when do you guys think that desire and drive is a good thing? When's it a bad thing?
When desire becomes prideful, when it comes that far, you have to reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah, I think desire is a great thing because, like I said before, like, it like fuels your passion for something. But if you let it take control of you, and if you let it dominate your life, then it immediately turns into a bad thing. Like, you can have the desire to get good grades in school, and I mean, that seems like a pretty great desire. But if you let that take over your life, and you're just constantly focusing on your grades and everything, and you're not living a balanced life, then that's not a good desire to have.
And for example, if a person's addicted to a certain substance, then they're not gonna have a good life, and it's just gonna draw them further away from God and other people.
I think also, like, if you're misusing your sexuality, like, sexuality is a beautiful thing, but if you're using it in the wrong way, you can hurt yourself and hurt others.
I think a good desire is like when you want to go out and you want to help people, that desire is going to push you to maybe extend that helping hand even further than you would normally.
I think God gives you good desires to, like, you will tell the difference between good and bad desires if you're doing something for Christ. So, like, if you're sleeping, like, you desire to sleep sometimes because your body needs sleep, but when it comes to a point that you're becoming lazy, and like, that's when it becomes like a bad desire.
Yeah, and like bad desires can stop people from being the best version of them they can be every day.
Next, our wild card guest, Silhouette, shares that one of her deepest desires is to find the happiness she missed out on as a child.
Let's hear her now.
Ever since I was a child, I have been a victim of bullying, and because of that, it has robbed me of the happiness that I would have had. And because of that, my greatest desire is actually to achieve happiness. I'm most happy when I'm helping others because it helps me realize that what I'm doing is actually counteracting what has occurred to me when I was younger. One way I was able to bear all the pain of the bullying and being left alone during school was actually my teachers, because they became the friends that I really needed to get through what I was going through.
I think it's really cool that her teachers were the friends for her and that they were always there for her whenever she needed somebody.
Yeah, it's cool to look in places that you never thought that you would find friends.
Yeah, definitely. Vince Schurman for sure felt that he was playing at the top of his game when he reached success with his band Army of Me and was signed to a major record label.
His desires had led him to national acclaim, but within weeks of the release of his album, the future of his band took an unexpected turn.
Let's hear his story now.
I had a lot of stuff starting to happen. A record deal, a publishing deal, working with the biggest manager in the music industry, touring with huge artists. Had a video on MTV and had songs on the radio and had all this really cool stuff happening. And I lost my voice, injured my vocal cords, actually 3 weeks before the record came out. So we couldn't promote anything, couldn't play any shows. I remember emailing my manager because I couldn't call him on the phone to tell him that I couldn't sing. And I had to cancel all these TV appearances and all this stuff. I had to have surgery on my vocal cords and all these things that sort of started to unravel. And, you know, working so hard and having all these hopes and aspirations and then having things fall apart was like another really devastating thing for me. My bandmates quit and my manager dropped me and my record label dropped me. But I know that it taught me something, because I think anytime you go through a hard time in your life, whether it's through your fault or, you know, something out of your control, I think you always can learn lessons. And so in that time, I learned a lot about humility. I learned a lot about letting go of control and surrender again, taking one step after another. I think it's easy to, like, when you go through a hard time, to forget about your dreams and your passions and your desires, but I've been encouraged by friends and I've continued to just like take one step at a time and keep following those dreams, and they take on new life. It's been a lot of hard work, but you know, I continue to follow dreams and follow my passions, and it's an ongoing journey that I don't think ever stops. If I got everything that I always wanted, exactly when I wanted it, I probably wouldn't have learned a lot of the lessons that I needed to learn. I wouldn't be on the path of learning how to love and trying to be humble and trying to serve and get out of myself and those types of things. I would not be as good of a person for sure, and I don't think I'd be as happy and as peaceful.
So how do you guys think recognizing our desires can help us to really fulfill the plan of God?
Well, I think that God puts a desire in all of us, and by following it, you're serving Him because He was thinking of you when He put it in desire inside of you. So by fulfilling it, it's like a prayer almost, and you're returning that favor to God.
Yeah, whenever like you feel lost, you should just like look inside yourself and say to yourself like, well, what do I want to do? What are my desires? And then from those desires, you can find the path you are supposed to take in life.
So since my desire is to help others, and since I'm already the community service head in my youth group, my goal in life is to become a pediatric doctor so I can help my community.
That's really cool. Next, our third wildcard guest, Maritza, shares how her desire to achieve good grades is rooted in her faith in God.
Let's hear her now.
So my desire was to get good grades because I want to be very successful in life. And my mom always told me that having an education is key, and also to have your trust in God because He will help you and He's the key to success. So I made sure to keep my grades up and to do good in school and try to be helpful to people at any time I can be. But also that helped me today to be part of the National Honor Society in school and also be honor roll for the whole year currently, and all my other years in high school actually. So I'm thanking God for that.
I think it was really cool how she was able to tie in her faith with what she was working through in school and how she was able to build off her faith into her work ethic.
Yeah, it was also really inspiring that her goals were so tangible and she ultimately did accomplish them.
In 1 John chapter 4, we read, "Beloved, let us love one another because love is of God.
Everyone who loves is begotten by God and knows God.
Whoever is without love does not know God, for God is love."
Who better to know the desires of our heart than God, who is love?
Finally, our spotlight guest Vince explains how we can only fill our infinite desires with the infinite love of God.
And how we must put our full trust in God in order to obtain true satisfaction.
I think a lot of times what I've done and what I think people do is reach out to the things that they think will satisfy those desires. They're things that we see as beautiful and they give us pleasure. The thing is that hole inside of us is an infinite thing that really was made for God. When we reach out to something that's not infinite, and it might not even necessarily be drugs or alcohol or sex. It could be validation from friends. It could be a lot of different things. Anytime you try to fill something infinite with something finite. In my life, what I can speak to is recognizing my own need and recognizing my own bankruptcy, my own emptiness in prayer, and saying, okay, here are my desires. Here are the things that I want. Here are the things I'm worried about. Here are the things I'm anxious about. Here is my pain. Here is my hopes. Here are my dreams. I surrender. I trust. I give it to you, and I trust in you. And something happens when I do that, and that's I receive peace. It's not a peace that I get anywhere else. It's not a peace that I get by having a lot of money in the bank when things go well, or it's not a peace that I have when all my friends like me and something was awesome. But it's really like a satisfaction inside of me that it calms me. And it's a hard thing to do, especially when you want something so bad, especially when you are longing so strongly for something. When Jesus met the woman at the well, and she was drawing water out of the well, and he says, well, if you would have asked me, I would have given you rivers of living water, and you wouldn't have to come back to this well. And I'm like, okay, you said we could ask. I'm gonna ask. Give me some rivers of living water. Give me that thing that's gonna satisfy me, because I want to be satisfied.
So how does your prayer life or your relationship with God help you guys achieve your goals?
On the journey of satisfying our desire, it can be hard. So if we pray to God more, it could make this path that God set for us less painful and suffer less.
Yeah, I heard once that we have a God-shaped hole in our heart that we try and fill, but sometimes we throw things in there that aren't necessarily what needs to be in there, and it's basically like putting a wrong puzzle piece into a puzzle.
Like only God can fill it.
Yeah.
There's a prayer that I do say to God every once in a while is, this is what I want, God. If this is not what you want, help me want what you want. And it's just like, when I'm going through something that it just doesn't feel right, and maybe God doesn't want that, that's what I tell him, and he always makes it work out.
That's awesome, I like that prayer.
In Psalm 145, we are told that God fulfills the desire of those who fear him.
And that he longs to satisfy the desire of every living thing.
How beautiful for us to reflect on this. If we stay close to Jesus, he will fulfill our desires.
This does not mean that life will be perfect or easy, but it does mean that God will walk with us,
looking for ways to satisfy the desires that he created with us.
So what desires has God placed in you?
We want to hear from you.
Contact us at realfaithtv.com.
Or share your thoughts with us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you today with this tweet from Pope Francis on November 11, 2013.
God loves us.
May we discover the beauty of loving and being loved.
And may we also discover our desires and use them for good.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.
It's never the end. We're always traveling. But what is the goal? And it's nighttime inside his soul. But when the white flag flies, that's when the anguish dies. That's when the battle